Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to do the March energy update for 2025. So today is February 26th. I am doing this. I felt really inclined to do it today, actually. And it was interesting because I thought about doing it the other day, and then there was like this, no, just wait another day or so. And it's been funny because every time, we're getting closer to, end of month and all this, I do kind of start to get some little inklings, if you wish to call it that, maybe. But sometimes this little bit of wash through of maybe what is kind of coming in the energy for March. And we were talking a little bit even on our live the other night that this is just every time I feel like I've gotten an inkling, it all of a sudden seems to be becoming completely irrelevant. And that's pretty wild because normally when things are getting close enough, to only a couple weeks away or a week away from into the next month, normally I can feel like getting more solidified or a little bit more like, oh yeah, this definitely seems more like that general theme. This time it's like as soon as I get a bit of this or that or a sliver of something, it's almost like completely irrelevant 3 days later. It's it's been interesting because it's not been like that necessarily from any other times that I've been trying to kind of tap in either month by month or even on a general basis. So this has been an interesting one because it just feels as though as so much is shifting and changing already in our collective. I mean, we're only 2 months into 2025. Who thought things were going to get as wild as they did already and have been in the last little bit here. But the thing that's really going to be interesting is as this is moving so quickly, so does the other side. And what I mean, the other side of this starts to come out is like a lot more understanding of the whole picture, a lot more um, mm, grace, I guess, in the way the energy is going to continue to move, and that I think a lot more people are starting to accept a little bit more of this unknown piece, and that they're kind of relaxing a little bit more into it, realizing, hey, there really is nothing I can't control anything here because I don't know, or I'm not really aware of anything to control in this moment in time. So all we can really do is surrender into the process of this change that's starting to happen. Now, this change has been happening for years. But as we know, a lot more of this in the physical sense is finally starting to catch up. So this is where it gets interesting because going forward into March, so it's almost like they show me a divide in March, which is interesting as well. So it almost feels like these first 2 weeks of March will be this place where a lot of reflection is been done and maybe some different types of decisions maybe want to come forward, maybe some change. Maybe you finally decided you've recognized all the things that aren't serving you and you're ready to really take some action and stay more consistent. What's interesting, like this word consistency, like it's considerably showing up in my life, and of course for the things that I really want to run after this year are quite large, probably larger than what I've ever run after necessarily before. And it's just like there's something about this aspect of consistency, and I think so many of us think of it as like this kind of gross or bitter word because a lot of us have definition around consistency that doesn't always feel good. And I've recognized that even in myself. Consistency always brought me being back to, certain things in school that never made me feel good, and I was always feeling like I was being told what to do. And I am just not one of those people that can be told what to do. It never makes me feel good, nor does it make me feel empowered in any sense. So for myself personally, I've recognized some of these definitions again, even with the word consistency. And so it's almost like this aspect of like, that's almost the kind of energy of March is like this consistency. And it's going to come down to each and every person and how you determine what that is and how it actually makes you feel. Now, if it doesn't feel good, like what I've done for myself is like to really look at that and then restructure it into something that makes more sense, that serves you better, right? So it doesn't, you're not fighting it. The procrastination doesn't come that way, right? Procrastination is usually because something doesn't feel good or we really don't want anything to do with it. But when we run our own business or, if you have these things that you want to do, there might be steps in there that you might not be super excited about doing, right? But you have to get them done if you want to actually see that momentum continue to come in your direction of whatever it is you're trying to achieve or what you're looking forward to doing. Okay. And that could be on even just a small scale. It doesn't have to be, of course, with business. I reference it to business because that's my entire life. Um, but, it's just those things that we can all focus on this in different ways and use this energy in a capacity that actually feels good rather than repeating patterns or trying to avoid it or deflect it in some way because we don't want to feel the energy that we have determined what consistency might bring to us. Okay. So it's a very interesting time. And that really feels like that'll be kind of the first 2 weeks of March-ish. Will be a little bit more of this wishy-washy and flip-flopping between ourselves. It's just going to be a battle within the mind and the notion of knowing and, and finding out what the gut feeling really is leading you towards, and then actually taking the action on that and then staying consistent with that action. So it can be scary for sure for a lot of people right now because they don't really know how to navigate the unknown. I'm going to tell you right now, the best way to navigate the unknown is through your own notion of feeling. Feels is always the best way to navigate the unknown because it's going to tell you exactly whether you feel like that is the right thing for you in that exact moment. And I say right thing, I don't like to use those words, but for the notion of what this is, we'll use it as that. But it's like, okay, what do I feel like? Does this feel good to me right now? Right? Or do I really feel yucky by all of this? And the sensation of, I don't really know so much about taking action right now. Or you start to get yourself confusion, right? So that's the other piece of that too. And so there's a couple of things there. And then of course you've got this notion now where we're moving when we move into the closer to the end of March, this is where they're kind of showing me like this shift or like a different wave sensation of energy starts to come through. And I think this secondary kind of wave of energy that's going to come through, either one, if you've got momentum started or you've got that consistency down a little bit more for the March or taking that action in the beginning of March, that wave feels like it's going to kind of push you like a surfer. It's going to really take that and really get that momentum flowing. And if you're in a space now where you're still wish-washing or you're flipping back and forth or you're constantly still in a battle with yourself, that wave is going to take you in that energy as well. So it seems to be, it's almost like, again, from the last couple months, we had all this heart and vulnerability energy in February, and then we had January that was like really high creative, getting really excited for things to come. It's like, can you take the capacity of what both of these months have been, and now you're kind of starting to put it into action in a different way, in more of that physical reality. It's not so much just in the energetics anymore, right? We've been working up to this. Okay. So March is going to be a little bit more time for this consistent action to start taking place. And whatever it is you're going for, if you feel good about it, understand that that second part of March is really going to push that forward. If you are fighting or you're inconsistent or you're battling with yourself or you're kind of wallowing maybe in some of the energy that you don't prefer, understand and know that wave is going to push you even further into that until you finally decide that you're going to step out of it. Okay. So that's the other thing here, is that you're not going to get stuck on one track or the other. Okay. Coming back to the train analogy a little bit here, but you do have to kind of be aware of what it is you're wanting. So I think that was, again, part of why January and February were months to really reflect on what you want to experience yet here, because this is going to be, March is going to be that time where you're going to start putting more of that in action to do what you can do, in those moments where you can, to actually make that start to really happen now in the physical reality. It's almost like they're giving me the sense of like really anchoring that in now, because now you can actually start to make it more happen in the physical reality. And they're talking a lot about like how much faster this is going to happen than I think a lot of people even recognize. Our Earth now is on a basis where the energy has heightened quite a bit. So the vibrational set point on Earth is different, but it's different to a point now too, where it's aligned with different dimensions differently and almost in a sense easier to access. Okay. So when we're thinking about all this stuff in the energy, you can think of it already being like, it's almost instantaneous when it's energy, right? Because there's nothing in the actual physical matter that actually has to come to be. So you've got these dimensions now that we're connecting with in different levels in these different ways, that's actually making it easier to bring into the physical world. Okay. And what I mean by that is like why it's such an important time for not just our planet. It's a really exciting time on our planet. There's a reason why a lot of us wanted to be here at this point in time, because this is massive change that is taking place. And it is really exciting to be a part of, but at the same time, it can be a lot of fear inundated and a lot of fearful things coming out as change progresses and goes on. And I think that's why, the collectives, the ones that we work with, I know that my own guides have also said, like, this is why we wanted everyone to start gaining more confidence in yourself and to find your truth, because by finding your truth, this is going to make the month of March easier for you by knowing what your truth is. And if you have a hard time resonating with things or whatnot, we do have other podcast episodes talking exactly about what, finding your truth, what resonates for you, and starting to trust more in that than necessarily anybody outside of you telling you this is the truth, this is the way it is, this is how it works. Okay. So if you've been like listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I've been dragging my feet on doing this, and you kind of, I don't want you to start panicking, but I want you to start trying to become more aware every day going forward, because it will continue to make your journey easier. It's just for the ones that have already kind of had a jump start on this, March is going to be a time to frickin' shine. Like, no joke. Like, it is going to be a time to really decide and take action on it everywhere that you possibly can. It's going to be also a month that's going to stretch you. It's going to stretch you outside of your comfort zone quite a lot. But again, it's if you accept it and you go with that flow of stretching and taking this action that maybe you're not used to taking, that is going to turn in very quickly into this growth and learning experience that actually gets to be more fun than necessarily scary. So it's, again, can you trust in yourself enough to know that this seems really exciting to me and I really want to take action here, even if I feel like, this has really been out in left field for me before, for most of my life, or whatever maybe it is. I want you to take the action in March. And it's not just me. This is coming from, that spirit, that energy. It's there. And if you can utilize it, it is going to do massive things for you. Okay. Literally snowball effect. Like, you're going to have the whole bottom of the snow pan done by the time, April is rolling around, if that's what you really want it to be. But here's the thing. Nobody's going to do it for you. Okay. So if there's really something you want in your life, or there's really some kind of change that you want, or something along those lines, I don't want you to think of this as like working extra hard. I want you to think of this as listening to my intuition to tell me where my action is best taken to get to where I'm wanting to go, or to achieve what I'm wanting to bring in. Okay. It's going to take a little bit of time, especially if you're asking, for really big things. They're probably not going to show up in 30 days necessarily, but that head start can be like a massive shortening of time for how it actually does show up in your physical reality. So March is a massive month of action. Let's just put it that way. It's also a time to be aware and reflect, though, on exactly how, when feelings or emotions or triggers come up, right? Because they're showing you and telling you, okay, well, they're still showing up possibly for an aspect of, is it just because I'm uncomfortable? So I want you guys to remember that that's going to be the big theme for March. But again, that first half is going to be more about the reflecting and the understanding of what you want and where you want to take that action. And then the second part is going to be that extra wave that'll take you like on as the surfer on the wave. And no matter where you are, whether you're aware of the wave or not, it's going to come, it's going to hit. And it's just going to depend on how you choose to view it and how you're choosing to feel in the moments where you might feel really inundated with emotion. You might feel like there's a lot going on, but understand and know the world is asking us to say, hey, you're living on this planet. We're asking you to step up to the plate whether you like it or not, because Mother Earth and everything on it that she is linked to, including the animal world, they don't have the same kind of intelligent consciousness. They don't have this ego necessarily battling with them on these things. And so in a way, they're already so naturally able to keep up with the energy shifts because they are not fighting against it. They're not trying to say that there's something, this is the way the world actually works. This is the way it all, looks. So know and understand we're being asked to step up. Our warning and our gentle nudges are over, you guys. So you're in the midst of it now, and whether you like it or not, it is going to happen. So if you want to make it easier on yourself, get to know yourself better, find out what seems exciting to you in the world. Because for you, having those experiences allows you to create the same kind of energy that Mother Earth is asking for, that most of us want to be a part of, which is the excitement, the joy, the happiness, the sense of freedom. Now, if you want freedom is a big one right now. A lot of people want to feel free. I am telling you, you are not going to find that outside of yourself. You have to find a freedom in yourself first before you will ever see it replicated back to you in the physical world. So if you want to feel free, practice feeling free every single day. Whether you're just like, oh, it's just make-believe because it's not really my reality. Well, your reality takes a little while to catch up, you guys. So you have to feel it. You have to create it within you first. And that's in your imagination first. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and physical reality. You give yourself the feelings of feeling free, your brain will start to look for those exact same feelings in the external world, and it will literally attract them to you. Okay. So I know some people are like, well, if I just had all the money in the world, then I'd feel free. No, no, you don't need money to feel free. You need to feel free within yourself first before any of that is actually necessarily going to reflect back to you, right? So March is that time to take the action though. If you're like, okay, well, I've been doing, the same job over and over and over again, and I'm stuck at a certain salary rate and I can't change that. Okay, you can't change that. But there's a lot of different ideas that I guarantee you are out there that you could do on the side. Call it side hustle. But honestly, stuff now, you've got AI, you've got other software programs, you've got stuff that's literally cutting down this to be less than, a part-time job worth of hours. You might have to feel like you're sacrificing something that you don't really want to give up for a little while, but I promise you, if it's really something you want and you stay consistent with it, hence again, that consistent energy of March, right? It will take off. If the thing is so many people just want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again in their comfort zone because they're comfortable there. And yet they want something different. But that's literally the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's just never going to happen. Right? So I know it might seem a little harsh, but that's going to be kind of like the energy of March. It's going to be asking you to step up. If you're asking for change, step up. If you're not asking for change, okay, that's fine, right? You don't have to. But even if it's just something small, remember the intensity of behind that now is getting larger. Because the universe is saying, okay, well, if you're asking for this, we've given you chance over chance over chance over chance over chance. So you've ignored all of those over the years. We're now at a point in 2025 where it's not going to be a gentle nudge necessarily anymore. If you want change, it might very well be a kick in the ass that you don't really like, right? And then everybody wants to back out from it because they're like, oh, I don't like this feeling. I don't like this. Nobody likes to be uncomfortable. But the thing about uncomfortability tells you you're growing, tells you you're actually changing, right? So embrace it rather than trying to run from it. And I promise you, magical things happen when you do that. So I wish you guys all the best for the next month of March. I do want to read the couple cards actually that I pulled right before I jumped on here, which I thought was really kind of funny because again, it seemed like I don't usually pull cards coming in to do an energy update for a month, but I very much got told just pull some cards. And so I did. And so they're quite fitting, I feel like, to go along with this entire month. So I'm going to read them to you real faster because they are quite relevant for our time of now. So the first one that actually came out was the Wailing Tree, which is reconciliations. And the number of this card is 59. So grief and mourning, a time of necessary losses and reconciliations. When you encounter the Wailing Tree on your path, it's an invitation to stay a while and regroup, a place for you to rest and allow yourself to say goodbye to what no longer serves. You may have been overdoing things, working too hard, or putting too much effort into life with little reward. If you've been considering making a change, now is the time to do so. One important thing to consider before you make any changes is that you need to allow yourself to feel your disappointment, your loss, and mourn what was and what could have been. This is not a way to honor your experience, to give yourself time to consider all the gifts in it, to put proper closure on it, to really know what you've learned as you walked away from it and into something new. Even in the perception of failure, there is so much good to be discovered. However, skipping the stages of loss doesn't get you to reconciliation any faster. In fact, you will likely discover that you will have to come back at some point. So do it all now. Look at it squarely and honestly and stay with your feelings. Life is not an either or, it's both and this and that. So as you dive in and process this, allow it to become a temporary travel companion on your journey. The feelings that this will bring to the surface will be challenging for sure. Yet, like all things, they will pass soon enough and you'll be more enriched by the experience. So again, this is the perfect card really for the beginning of March, for those first 2 weeks of March, okay? And then the second card that fell out at the exact same time, by the way, was the Crossing, which is the initiation. And it is number 54. So again, you got lots of fives happening here, okay? And the Crossing, rise of passage and initiation. You have come to stand on one side of the river. The opposite bank leads to the darkness of the internal cave, where the old dies and then is born again. This is a place where time is forgotten and the seasons cease their dance and stand still, as if in temporary repose. You must cross the river now, honoring and respecting this transition, for time or it's time to say goodbye to your old ways of navigating your world. Don't be afraid. You've come to the edge of the river because you are ready. You're ready to let go of what doesn't serve you and all the ways in which you've kept yourself from truly living. Intimacy requires vulnerability and truth. Can you strip away the masks and the barriers of false strengths to discover what you're really made of? Step into the boat waiting for you. Let it carry you into the cave where the shadows are waiting to be illuminated so you can be born again into the world without denial or sacrifice. Making the crossing is a beautiful, powerful act of the highest kind of love. And again, as you can kind of see, even in that card, it literally quite references the vulnerability that we were just going through, that heart center of February, the feelings, the emotions, being okay with accepting ourselves in that way. And now we're being asked to step up to the plate. We're being asked, if you showed up here, you feel like you're ready, you wouldn't be here listening to this, I don't think, if you weren't ready. Okay. We know there's a lot of people in the world that, wouldn't be listening to this kind of podcast if you weren't really ready to step up to the plate. So if you have people in your life too, right, that aren't really making any change and always maybe they're bitter, maybe they complain a lot, maybe they do these things, and maybe you noticed a lot of that happened here in February, right? A lot of that was kind of coming to the surface, a lot of people. So I want you to remember, as you move forward, it's not your responsibility to help them into the boat. Okay. You can't help someone into the boat if they don't want to go in the first place. Because at some point in time, they will figure out how to get off the boat, whether they just jump in the water and they swim back to the shore, or they completely fight you tooth and nail before they even get into the boat by questioning, by accusing, by throwing all these things out. Okay. So I don't want you to think that, oh man, I got to get myself and everybody else on the boat that I care about. No, you get on the boat first. Because what happens is when you get on the boat first, then you create a different reality, but you also create a different way of being. And that also creates an entire new vibration that sends out to everybody that you love and are close to. And it actually plants a seed to say, hey, if you want this, you could do it too, but you have to choose it for yourself. Okay. So I hope everybody has a fantastic March, no matter what turns out of it. Whether it turns out, you've got some challenges that show up, that's okay. Remember that the challenges are showing up usually because you've decided something different for yourself as well. And it's a time where you get to recognize, do I get to respond to this differently? Or am I going to repeat everything that I've been doing? Right? It's that physical piece of this, you guys. March is going to be very physical. It's going to be that consistency in action. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you're listening to whatever day you're having to listen to this on, but I also hope that you have a fantastic March. And just remember, everything is temporary. So it means, even if you're uncomfortable, it's temporary. All right. So we'll see you in the next episode.